There's a pain that cuts deeper than a breakup. It's a heartbreak of letting go of someone who was never truly yours. Not because you didn't give them your heart, but because they never gave theirs in return. Letting go in this situation isn't about walking away from what you had. It's about grieving what never was. You weren't wrong for falling. The feelings you experienced were genuine, even if the relationship wasn't. Sometimes what we fall in love with isn't the person themselves, but the hope they bring, the fantasy we create in our mind. You saw glimpses of something beautiful, and your heart clung to that, believing if you just held on a little longer, it might turn into something real. But not all connections are meant to grow into something lasting. Often, we confuse intensity with intimacy. A few meaningful conversations, a deep gaze, or a fleeting moment of vulnerability can feel like the start of something profound. And yet, if those moments are not followed by consistent effort, love and presence, they remain only that moments. Temporary flickers that made you feel special but never turned into a steady flame. The truth is, when someone makes you feel uncertain more often than they make you feel safe, that's not love, it's emotional instability. You begin to question yourself, wondering what you did wrong, why they pull away when you get too close. It's not because you are unlovable, it's because they were never truly invested. Their inconsistency isn't your fault, but it becomes your burden when you keep trying to fix it. Holding onto someone who was never fully yours is like grasping smoke. The harder you try, the more it slips away. Letting go isn't admitting defeat, it's recognizing that what you want never was truly offered. It's choosing to stop chasing an illusion and start creating space for something real, something you don't have to beg for. Because love should feel like home, not a puzzle you're constantly trying to solve. Real love doesn't leave you constantly questioning where you stand. It brings calm, not chaos. When someone truly cares about you, they make it known not just with words, but with consistent actions. But when a person is emotionally unavailable, they often disguise their lack of clarity as mystery or depth, leaving you confused rather than cherished. That confusion isn't romantic, it's damaging. You deserve to feel safe in your emotions, not stuck in a guessing game. You shouldn't have to overanalyze every text, every silence, or every half-hearted effort. When someone gives enough just to keep you around but never fully shows up, it becomes emotional manipulation. It's the kind of connection that leaves you drained, not fulfilled. It's tempting to think that if you're patient enough, they'll come around, that eventually they'll realize your worth and offer you the certainty you've been waiting for. But the longer you stay in that limbo, the more you begin to compromise your own standards just to maintain a connection that was never built on a solid foundation in the first place. Choosing clarity isn't about needing someone to spell everything out. It's about being with someone who chooses you freely and fully without conditions, without mind games, and without making you feel like love is something you have to earn. You were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. You gave your heart fully. You showed up with sincerity, patience, and loyalty, thinking that more love you gave, the more likely they would finally meet you halfway. You stayed up late comforting them, sent messages they never replied to, and forgave them without even receiving a proper apology. You tried to be everything for someone who barely showed you the basics of respect and emotional presence. It's natural to believe that love can fix things. That if you're kind enough, understanding enough, or patient enough, they'll eventually see your worth. But the painful truth is, love doesn't grow in a one-sided effort. You can't be the only one carrying a connection while the other person remains passive, distant, or indifferent. A relationship isn't built by one person doing all the emotional labor while the other takes it for granted. There's a difference between investing in love and losing yourself in the pursuit of it. You weren't building a future together, you were patching up the cracks alone. You kept moving, trying, hoping, while they stayed still. Your growth, your sacrifice, your attempts to bridge the emotional gap were not matched. That's not progress, that's emotional stagnation wearing a disguise of effort. Letting go doesn't mean did love hard enough. It means you finally realized your love deserves a return. Real relationships are partnerships, not rescue missions. You can't fix someone by loving them harder, and you can't build something meaningful with someone who refuses to meet you in the middle. Walking away is not weakness, it's wisdom. Wanting someone deeply creates a powerful emotional pull. You imagine a life together, build dreams in your mind, and hold on tightly to every small sign of affection. That desire feels so intense and genuine that it can almost convince you that what you feel must be shared. But love isn't real just because you feel it strongly. It becomes real when it's chosen by both people, freely and completely. It's painful to accept that someone you gave your heart to never truly offered theirs in return. You may have believed that with enough time, care, and loyalty, they would eventually feel the same. But relationships aren't built on hopes alone. They require mutual choice, a shared decision to be present, committed, and emotionally available. One-sided love, no matter how deep, doesn't make someone yours. You can't force someone to feel what they don't or to give or unwilling to give. Holding on tightly to a connection that only exists in your heart can lead to endless disappointment. You deserve to be chosen without hesitation, not merely tolerated or occasionally noticed. It's not enough for some to sometimes act like they care. If they aren't consistent, they aren't choosing you. Letting go doesn't mean your feelings were wrong. It simply means you're brave enough to hold space for someone who never truly held space for you. Real love is mutual. It's not built on longing or waiting for someone to come around. It's built when both people say yes to each other and mean it. When someone is silent or distant, it's natural to start filling in the blanks with your own explanations. You tell yourself they're just busy, emotionally wounded, or afraid of love. You find meaning in their inconsistencies, convincing yourself that there's something deeper behind. They come close one day and pull away the next. But the danger in this is that you begin to write a story in your head that's entirely separate from reality. You start seeing their silence as complexity, their lack of effort as vulnerability, and their absence as proof of inner battles you want to help them fight. In doing so, you shift the blame away from them and onto yourself. You begin to believe that if you were more patient, more understanding, or more supportive, they would finally open up. But silence is often not that complicated. It's a clear sign of disinterest or emotional unavailability. Trying to read between the lines of some cold behavior only leads you to disappointment. The truth is, if someone wanted to communicate, they would. If they wanted to show up, they would. If they truly valued you, You wouldn't have to decode their every move or make excuses for their absence. Love doesn't need to be guessed. It makes itself known through presence, consistency, and care. The hardest thing to accept is that someone's silence may simply mean they don't care enough to explain themselves. And that's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their readiness and capacity. You deserve someone who doesn't keep you wondering, someone whose actions match their words. Stop giving depth to shallow efforts. Sometimes the silence says everything you've been trying not to hear. It's easy to take it personally when someone doesn't choose you. You start replaying every moment, wondering what you could have done differently or how you could have made them stay. But the truth is, their inability to commit or love you fully isn't a reflection of your worth. Sometimes people just aren't in a place to receive the kind of love you have to offer. And that has more to do with them than it does with you. You may have felt like you were being rejected, but what if it was something greater at work? What if this painful moment is actually life redirecting you away from a relationship that would have kept you stuck, waiting and hoping for something that was never going to bloom? Sometimes, what feels like loss is really protection. You are being spared from years of emotional neglect and unfulfillment, even if it doesn't feel that way now. When you stay in a place you've outgrown or where you're not truly seen, you delay the love that is actually meant for you. Letting go of someone who couldn't choose you is difficult, but it opens up the path for someone who will. You weren't meant to shrink yourself to fit to someone's life. You were meant to be embraced exactly as you are, with all the love you have to give. So instead of seeing it as rejection, start seeing it as realignment. You've been guided back to yourself, to your worth, to the future that actually has space for the kind of love you desire. Sometimes the best thing someone can do for you is walk away because it gives you the chance to walk towards something better. You're not being pushed out of love, you're being pulled into your own power. Letting go of someone who was never truly yours can feel even more painful than a real breakup. There's no closure, no final conversation, no clear ending to hold on to. You're left mourning something that never officially began, which makes the feel confusing and difficult to explain to others. But just because there wasn't a title or a formal relationship doesn't mean your feelings weren't real. What you felt mattered, even if it was one-sided. The expectations you held, the plans you imagined, and the moments you dream of were all valid. You built something in your heart, a vision of what could be, that deserves to be acknowledged. Grieving those possibilities is part of the healing process. It's not about letting go of a person only. It's also about saying goodbye to the future you thought you were creating with them. Often, people feel ashamed or silly for being heartbroken over something that wasn't official. But emotions don't follow rules. Love doesn't require a label to hurt. You're allowed to cry, to feel disappointed, and to take time to heal. You invested your emotions, your hopes, and your time. That alone is enough reason to feel pain when it doesn't work out. Give yourself the compassion you'd offer to a friend. Don't rush to erase the feelings or pretend they didn't matter. Let yourself grieve fully so you can move forward freely. Healing doesn't depend on the other person recognizing what you had. It depends on you honoring your own heart and choosing peace over unanswered questions. It's one of the hardest truths to accept, that someone you cared about deeply isn't going to change. You may have seen their potential, believe in their growth, and hope that one day they would wake up and realize what you meant to them. But holding onto that hope starts to take a toll. Every time disappoint you, you feel a little smaller, a little more invisible, and a little less like yourself. When you continue waiting for someone to become what you need, you slowly start to abandon your own needs. You stop speaking up, you lower your standards, and you stay quiet when you should walk away. You convince yourself that if you just love them enough or prove your worth, maybe they'll finally show up for you. But love isn't about proving anything. If they were going to change, they already would have. You don't need to keep investing in someone who keeps showing you through their actions that they're not ready. Growth is a choice, and if they are not choosing it, then you need to choose something different for you. Waiting for someone else to grow while you shrink is not love. It's self-abandonment disguised as loyalty. You deserve someone who doesn't need to be convinced of your value. The real shift stands when you stop hoping it'll become better and start becoming better for yourself. You take your energy back, your time back, your power back. You stop trying to fit into their world and start building your own. That is how you choose yourself. That is how you heal. And that is how you finally let go of the version of them you created in your heart and begin embracing the version of you who no longer waits to be chosen. One of the most difficult to accept is that the closure you're hoping never come from the person who hurt you. You might wait for an explanation, a conversation, or even just a sincere apology that helps you understand why things happened the way they did. But sometimes, moment never arrives. People leave loose ends, unanswered questions, and broken promises, and they move on without giving you the peace you're craving. You could spend months or even years replaying old conversations, searching for hidden meanings, and wondering what you missed. You convince yourself that if you just talk to them one more time, everything would finally make sense. But in reality, the answers you're waiting for may not bring you the comfort you imagine. And sometimes, the person you're waiting on doesn't even have the emotional maturity to offer that kind of honesty. Real freedom begins when you stop needing them to make things right. You stop needing validation from someone who didn't value you the first time. Closure isn't something they give you, it's something you create for yourself. It's the moment you decide you don't need their reasons to move on. You don't need their words to feel whole again. You simply choose to let go because holding on has become too heavy. Giving yourself closure is one of the most empowering things you can do. It's an act of self-love that says, I deserve peace, even if I never get the apology. It's recognizing that your healing isn't dependent on them. It's in your hands now. And as painful as it is to walk away without answers, It's also the start of finally being free from confusion, from waiting, and from a story that was never truly yours to begin with. Letting go of someone who never made space for you in their life is not a sign of weakness. It's a moment of strength. The kind comes from deep within when you finally choose yourself. For so long, you may have tried to make it work, held on to hope, and convinced yourself that if you just kept showing up, they would too. But there comes a time when continuing to hold on does more harm than good, and walking away becomes an act of survival. You are not giving up by letting go. You are accepting what they repeatedly showed you through their actions or lack of them. Love is not about how long you can wait or how much pain you can endure. It's about mutual care, respect, and presence. When someone doesn't show up for you, it doesn't mean you failed. It means they couldn't meet you where you were. And it's not your job to shrink, bend, or break just to fit into their world. Choosing to let go is choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-worth over self-sacrifice. It's finally realizing that your heart shouldn't be a home for people who only visit when it's convenient. It's about no longer chasing after someone who never truly looked back, and understanding that their lack of effort is a reflection of their capacity. When you let go, you begin to return to yourself. You create room for healing, for growth, and eventually for the kind of love that doesn't make you question your worth. Letting go is end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, one where you are the priority, where your peace matters, and where you stop settling for anything less than someone who chooses you fully and freely.